Hi, I'm Brent Johnson, and today I'm at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Charlestown, Massachusetts. With me again is Peter Sykes. Peter, thank you for joining me today here again. Tell me about this instrument. This is...
So this organ is a Woodbury in Harris. Jesse Woodbury was an English immigrant who worked as an organ builder with his brother, with another fellow named Colin Woodbury, and with another named Harris, Woodbury in Harris.
Okay, well, I'm anxious to hear some of it. We have 3 manuals and pedal. I guess let's start with the great. Tell me what we have here.
We have a full chorus starting with 16, and reeds and strings, and 2 mixtures. We'll start with the open diapason, which is very warm and broad.
Lovely. And a beautiful acoustic in this room for it to sing into as well.
And a very, very beautiful room as well.
Indeed. All right.
Yes. So we also have a Doppelflöte, a gedeck with 2 mouths. It can both be a beautiful solo voice, but also as a thickener for the chorus.
Okay.
A viola da gamba. Put that with the Doppelflöte. And then with the open. Sort of like that French. Font quality of sound.
Big wash of sound coming out
Yes,
there. Yeah,
yes,
all right.
yes. At the 4-foot level, we have an octave to pair with the 8-foot. Very, very bright. A 4-foot flute harmonique, which is huge. Which goes with the Doppelflöte.
Sound.
And from then we start building the chorus. 8-foot, 4-foot, 2-foot, 2 2/3, mixture 3 ranks, mixture 2 ranks on top of that. 16-foot open diapason. Trumpet 8. Clarion 4.
For an 1893 organ, especially starting with that big broad diapason, that has a lot of brightness in it. It's kind of surprising how,
it's absolutely,
how bright the 2 and the 2 2/3 bring it, even before the mixtures come on. So
yeah,
that's great to hear. Okay, that's our great division. Where should we go from there?
Let's go to the swell.
Okay.
So in the swell, we have a open diapason as well. A stop diapason. Solitional. And a quintadina. Put them all together and you get this. So a lot of unison tone. Also the same thing at the 4-foot level, a 4-foot octave to go with the open diapason. And a 4-foot flauto traverso to go with the stop diapason. And then there's a 4-foot violina as well, which goes with the solitional to make that very bright string. Quality of sound. A flautino 2-foot, which is quite bright. In principal scale almost.
Yeah.
So we put that on top of the 8/4 flutes. It's really more of a principal.
Yeah, it is.
So we can put that on top of the 4-foot and 8-foot diapasons. Then the usual cornet mixture with a tierce. Put that on top of the principals, 2-foot. And then an oboe, which is very beautiful. Cornopian, which is both louder and duller, or darker. A very, very nice Vox Humana.
Yeah, very nice.
So we put the swell chorus together and a 16-foot Borden as well. So we start with the 8-foot, 4-foot, 2-foot, mixture, Cornopian, 16,
Yeah, surprisingly bright again. That cornet mixture definitely adds that older sound to it, but it's
Quite right.
still the 2-foot being a principal is kind of interesting.
Yes, it's a very, very
Flautino.
rich quality of
Yeah,
sound.
definitely.
And it does add to the full grate. And I should say that this organ is also supplied with pneumatic stop action, which allows us to have combination pedals. And so that when I hit the forte swell pedal, that gives us all the swell stops except for the 4-foot flute and the Vox, which is that. And I should also say that the swell pedal is quite effective.
Definitely.
The piano grate just takes off other stops. The mezzo grate is the 8s and the 4-foot and the 4-foots. Forte grate adds the upper work. And when you add the swell to that, then add the top of the grate on top of that. It's a very, very dramatic sound.
Indeed, yes. Okay. Well, then we have one more division here on the manual divisions. We have a choir.
The choir.
What do we have in there?
We have another principal, a Geigen principal. Dulciana, or sorry, I should start with Melodia. Dulciana. This division is unenclosed. 8-foot. There's a 4-foot flute d'amour, which goes beautifully with the Melodia. Piccolo harmonique. Gives us a very bright 8/4/2 flutes. and then a very beautiful clarinet. Beautiful with a 4-foot flute. And a 16.
Oh, we have another 16 in this division as well. So.
We don't really think of the choir as having a chorus, but if we added the 4 and the 2 to the mixture, or the 4 and 2 to the Geigen principle and the 16,
I was about to say, out of just kind of these color stops, still that 2-foot is so bright that it gives you a nice chorus sound there, and everything.
Yes,
is
and there's always clarity.
Yeah, indeed, it's surprisingly bright, is what I would say from just looking at the stop list and knowing the age of the organ. All right, well, as a good mechanical action organ does, we have a number of pedal stops.
Yes, this organ is somewhat unique in that it does not have a 16-foot subbass. It has the double open diapason. Which is a big, strong foundation, but then a double Dulciana 16-foot, a full-length open 8-foot string, 16-foot string. You can almost hear the bow against the string.
What a luxury to have that purring away down there.
It's a beautiful, especially down in the room, it makes an amazing, pervading quality of sound. It's still quite soft. And then a violoncello, 8-foot. Goes beautifully with a double Dulciana. And then 2 really luxury stops. Big, beautiful 16-foot trombone. Wow. It's almost a French bombard.
Almost.
That if I were to give myself all of the forte combinations and couple it all together, put on the reeds.
Yeah, amazing.
I actually find that this organ being a little later and perhaps a little bit more cosmopolitan plays French music very, very well. Doesn't have that sort of mush mouth quality that some other
the
more
reeds
Englishy
are really got an edge to them, even though they're not spectacularly loud. The pedal's pretty loud, but they cut through very well.
And then finally in the pedal there's a 10 2/3, so that we can get the sense of a 32.
Gives you that rumbling underneath there.
Yeah, so the other thing, of course, is that with the Barker lever, things work a little bit differently than in a normal tracker organ. That the Barker lever is like this engine that everything either connects to or disconnects to. And so you couple the different keyboards to the Barker level, including the grate. And so that I can have the grate to pneumatic, as it says, on or off by little reversible thumb pistons. If I take the Barker lever off the grate, there's no sound at all, so that I could have the swell and the choir coupled to the grate without the grate being on. But then I put the others with it, and that the other manuals just follow suit. So that between the combination pedals and these thumb pistons, there's a lot of registrational flexibility that you can employ.
And that also just makes it easier to play rather than trying to have the weight of all three manuals.
That's absolutely right.
Fingers.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. The fact that the every other note is going either to the right or to the left is a very
Yeah, because that's a long run and a long, complicated run. So
absolutely. When the swell to the choir does not benefit through the Barker lever, and you have to eat your Wheaties to be able to.
That's
it's one thing. It's a very heavy action. Yeah.
Well, so it's best then you can just couple things through to the greatest.
That's right. That's right. There is a full organ piston, which is very hard to push, but it puts on everything. It doesn't affect the couplers. You have to do those separately. Okay. One thing that I really like in these 19th century instruments is to have the swell pedal all the way to the right.
You like that?
Because then you can use your left foot to play the majority of notes.
Okay.
You're not having to split back and forth when the swell is in the middle. I think that a lot of 19th century repertoire is much easier to play if the swell is all the way to the right. And yet, this is a 30-note pedal board. It goes all the way up to F.
So yeah, we do have 61-note compass on the manuals, but a slightly short pedal board.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am not used to having that 19th century expression shoe. So when I sit down at one of these, it's a little bit of a challenge for me to sort your balance out.
That's true.
Maybe I just need a little more experience with it.
Yes. Move to Boston.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Lee Eisman, and I am the curator of this instrument. The story began in 1974 when I moved to Charlestown, and my good friend Charlie Fisk said, if you do nothing else to save the world, save this Woodbury organ down the street from where you're living. So for many, many years, I voluntarily maintained the instrument, kept it going along with some help from Andover Organ Company and others, but I don't think it would still be here if it hadn't been kept playing through the years when the church didn't have enough money to have it professionally worked on. And finally, about 5 years ago, they had proceeds from the sale of their other church, which incidentally had a very interesting Baumgarten organ. That Baumgarten organ and that church were essentially sacrificed to make this church look beautiful and sound beautiful. So Andover Organ Company did a complete restoration of the winding and the action because neither could be done piecemeal. So the organ isn't fully restored yet, but up to the bottoms of the chests it's fully restored. And we insisted that it be done with complete authenticity and no modernization to speak of. So the organ still does not depend on electricity for anything except the blower. And every tracker was done with a linen end or a whipped end, and Andover made special machinery to do that effectively. So you'll see the lovely red linen ends and the white linen ends, and I should say the wound ends and the linen ends. And I'm thrilled that it's ready for another 100 years of operation. So the only change made of any consequence is that the Barker machine was raised 2 feet because the action is so complex because of the division on both sides of the window and because of the reversed and detached console. There are so many tracker runs and so much crisscrossing of layers of trackers that if a nut popped at the bottom of those layers, you had to do destructive work breaking things to fix things. And it was so frustrating for so many years to keep it going, and we're so delighted that it seems to be very, very happy now. When the grate is played, it opens pallets in the Barker machine. The Barker machine has a 2-to-1 ratio. The pallet moves twice the distance, the pneumatic moves twice the distance of the pallet and goes through a 2-to-1 reducing lever, which increases the power but limits the movement to what is needed to actually open the pallet. And then you simply turn couplers on and off, coupler grate to pneumatic or swell to pneumatic, to engage a particular set of squares with the Barker machine, and that's the way it works. The Barker machine is under pressure. So when you open a pallet, it exhausts that note, and the pull-down wires or pull-up wires engage with sets of squares, which then radiate to the left and the right. And this had to be done in such a way, in the swell, for instance, that the swell could continue to be played directly through tracker action or through the cup. You can see the pneumatics that are controlling the pedal combination action there. You see the double rise bellows. And what's interesting about the double rise bellows is that, in addition, we insisted that the feeder bellows be left. They're blocked off, but they're still there. So the great water engine in the basement moved the feeder bellows up and down, and the mechanism was still there and could have worked had the church been willing to spend whatever it cost to run 1,000 gallons of water an hour. So when water engines were popular, water was not metered. And once water metering began, there was suddenly a demand for blowers, electric blowers. So here's an example. You can see the beautiful cut linen ends of these new trackers at one end, and then at the other end you can see the wound red ends. So the pedal division is to the left. You can see the 16-foot reed in the front of the chest and the 16-foot open in the back of the chest, with the octave and the quint in between. And the resonators for the 16-foot trombone are all metal, as you can see. But it's interesting that they have wooden boots, wooden shallots. It's quite unusual. On the back of the chest is the 16-foot bourdon, and then the 8-foot open, then the solutional, then the 8-foot stop diapason, then the quintadina, then the 4-foot open flute harmonique, then the 2-foot, then the cornucopian, then the oboe, and lastly the vox humana. The case pipes all speak in this instrument. We're looking now at the 16-foot pedal dulciana. And if we go across the case, we're looking at the 16-foot open on the grate. And then the entire grate division begins with the 4-foot open, then the 8-foot open, then the 2-foot, then the then the 4-foot open, then the doppel flute, then the 2-foot, and I can't remember which of the mixtures is which, and which is the quint. And then you have, of course, the 8-foot trumpet and clarion. And you can see the slider chests, and I'm standing on one of the pneumatics that actuates the sliders. And we have the choir division, starting with the 16-foot Lieblich Gedicht. And then we have the 8-foot violin diapason, and then the 8-foot Dulciana, then the 4-foot harmonic flute, then the 2-foot flute, and then the clarinet. I should say the pipe work is basically in original condition. We've had some work done on it. The quintadina was recapped. The 2 great reeds were retongued and cleaned, but there remains a fair amount to do eventually to make the restoration complete, but it seems to be holding its own, thanks to the great work that Andover has done. The bottom 5 notes of the 16-foot open in the pedal are on an offset chest, which is activated by pneumatics through tubes, tubular pneumatic action for those 5 notes. Here you can see the 2 reservoirs, but most particularly you can see the rocker arms, wrought iron rocker arms that used to operate the feeder bellows that are connected to the water motor. So here, once again, this is the pedal roller board. The pedal chest is a ventil system that has a valve wire that runs for each note, and the ventils then turn on a particular stop. All the valves open and close for each note, and if that particular channel is winded, that stop then plays. And you're looking at simultaneously the pedal roller board and also the swell stop action. Here's more of close-ups of the water engine connecting rods and the feeder bellows, which are still there. And the chain on the top of the bellows communicated with the water engine. So as the bellows rose, the water engine would automatically slow down. Here we have the roller board for the swell division. Bung boards can be removed. There are helper pallets, split pallets at the bottom octave, relief pallets they're called, to ease the action when you're playing without the Barker machine. Then this is the action for the pedal Dulciana. So the valves are actually under each pipe in the case. So that stop is turned on by admitting air to the plenum under each valve. The valves are always opening whenever the pedal is played, but only when they're actually winded do they play. There's a 3-legged set of squares. So the pedal action goes to the three-legged squares. One leg goes to the pedal chest, the other leg goes to the pedal dulciana in the case. So here we have the couplers to the pedal. I'm sorry, the couplers from the Barker machine to the swell, which slip in such a way that you can either play them from the Barker machine or directly the tracker action from the keys. Now this box is the Barker machine, and it has the pallets under pressure inside, and the only change made, as I said before, was that it was raised 2 feet because it was impossible to maintain things. One had to climb onto this walk board or prone board or whatever you want to call it, and there was practically no way without being a spelunker to get in there. So at the suggestion actually of the Fisk company, who studied this Barker machine before building their pneumatic levers at Harvard, they suggested we raise it, and you can see the new wood that Andover came up with to raise it. And they did use carbon fiber trackers in this one short run so that one can avoid damaging things, because it's very strong and one can actually reach in to get at things without breaking something. So that was the only case in which they used modern materials. You can see layer after layer of crisscrossing trackers, which makes it virtually impossible to repair something at the bottom, which is why it has to be very secure. So they used hoist nuts instead of leather nuts in areas that couldn't be gotten to easily. And what you're looking at now is the choir to Barker machine action, and the choir to swell coupler is in the console.
Peter, thank you so much for introducing me to Woodbury and Harris. This is the first one of these I've seen from 1893. I've learned a lot. This has been educational to hear what they were doing. There's some of that English influence, but there's obviously some French influence too. There's a little bit of everything in here. And it's a great instrument and a great room. So thank you very much for demonstrating it for us.
My pleasure, thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the great job Peter did. If you did, please give us a thumbs up down below. And remember to subscribe to our channel if you're not already, and click the bell so you get notifications. We still have more videos from New England coming out, so you'll have to tune in to see where those are coming from. Until then, though, if you'd like to help us make more videos, you can do that by becoming a sponsor of the Oregon Media Foundation. You can do that by going to Oregon.media and clicking on support. All of these videos exist only because of your help, so thank you very much to our sponsors. Until our next video is out, though, you can find streaming classical organ music on our 3 stations, OregonLive.com, Positively Baroque, and the Oregon Experience. Thank you again, Peter. It was great working with you. Until next time, I'm Brent Johnson. Thank you for watching.